casual wear.
Hey man, there you go.
You're hitting it?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, I think we are live. So thanks everyone for joining. We're going to get started in a few seconds here, but we are welcoming our guests here to our Stream Hatchet and Sidekick webinar, how to promote your brand using gaming creators. So we're looking at ambassador and creator programs in the gaming and live streaming industry. So I'm your host, Amanda. I'm from Stream Hatchet, run the marketing department here, and I'm joined by three very special guests from the gaming and live streaming industry. So I'll let them introduce themselves.
Okay, I think it's me who is going first. So hi, everybody. My name is Iva. I work as a senior creator partnerships manager at Krafton. Specifically, I'm currently working on the PUBG IP, therefore PUBG Battlegrounds PC console. And my focus together with my team is the PUBG West. That means EMEA and Americas regions and content creators and partnerships with them from those countries. So just as a side note, whatever I will be talking about, those are kind of like strategies and thoughts that we apply here in our PUBG West team. And other regional teams might be doing things a little bit differently. So just something to keep in mind.
Awesome, thanks. And Jeff?
My name is Jeff Pabst. I'm a 20-year veteran of technology and media. For the past 6 years, I've been entrenched in the gaming and esports ecosystem. Previously, I was the chief revenue officer at FaZe Clan for over 3 years, helping build one of the biggest brands in gaming. I left and went to the talent management company Loaded, where I worked with some of the biggest creators in the world, people like Shroud, Lyric, Summit. And then over the last year, I did a bit of a boomerang back to help the founders run some of the FaZe media properties. So my experience, it really ranges from working with giant, tier one creators who are streaming to 20, 30, 40,000 people each and every time, down to working with smaller creators who are focused on TikTok. So I'm excited to kind of share some of my experience and really hear from Iva as well.
Awesome. Great to have you. And finally, Jake.
Hello, everybody. Jake Phillips. I'm Chief Revenue Officer for Stream Hatchet. It will be my 7th year on Saturday coming up at the company. I've also recently, in the last 12 months or so, taken over commercial for Sidekick. And yeah, really excited to dive in a little bit. Obviously, our teams are really in the weeds on all of these different ambassador programs and how we can leverage. So I think Eva's expertise, and I'll kind of chime in as I can with how we can help those data and analytic pieces make those programs shine.
Awesome. Well, moving right along into it, I guess just starting out to get you guys' opinion on why use ambassador programs. What is the benefit of working with creators, especially in the gaming and live streaming space? What do you see those benefits from working with them? Maybe Eva, you can start out and we can follow along.
Yep. Thank you for the question. So as far as I can speak for us here at PUBG, the content creators as a group, it's very important for us because especially during the early days of PUBG back in 2017-18, content creators helped us really very much to kind of popularize PUBG to the gaming community. And we have a very close relationships with a number of them since those early days. And we see them as a really important element in growing community, building community, and nowadays also they still do play important role in the way how we interact with our player base. So definitely a lot of value put into the content creators here, and why we do run ambassador program. So I would say that the way how I can describe our specific program, which we call PUBG Partners program, for us it is a way that we reward our creators. So that would be one of the main points that we utilize our ambassador program / partner program. as a tool to reward content creators that actively produce content that covers PUBG and showcases PUBG content, and help us with community interactions, and also the creators that interact actively with us and our team. From more of like a brand perspective, we also see our ambassador program as a tool that helps us to secure visibility of our game on major content platforms. So obviously, through variety of collaborations and activities that we do with our partners, and also just by, I would say, like daily organic relationships that help us to keep our partners actively produce content. That's how we secure the PUBG presence in the streaming ecosystem. And yeah, it's definitely the way for us to promote important game updates through those collaborations. So that's, I would say, the core reasons for us why to have an ambassador program.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really
I'll
great.
go
I
next.
think sounds great.
Jake, you want to go? Well, I think I'll just look back. My background is actually in more performance media, and you start to look at like the rise of some of like the social platforms and inventory and ads managers, and you've seen really the rise of like programmatic. I think some of when you look at performance and reach, it doesn't have sometimes that authenticity creator. And I start to take a look at like a few like key moments for me personally. I think back in 2018, it's really where the game completely changed. I think we could probably take a look at the model for Apex Legends, where they were the fastest game to get to 50 million registered users. Recall, it was literally every single major streamer for week on end. And I think it started to provide a little bit of a model and blueprint for how that could work moving forward. Now, for me, going when I was at FaZe Clan, is a lot of brands are talent that align with the communities that they speak to. And so for me, one of the things that's always important is just bringing in the appropriate creators using data tools like Stream Hatchet and Sidekick to really fuel like that discoverability process. And then we've just seen over time, and creator programs are done right, they can have an insane impact on the business, whether it's brand. I think even a more recent example for me is Kai Cenat playing Elden Ring, and it literally was a catalyst, and every major streamer who aren't even Elden Ring's like fans and community, and you're just seeing it completely come back, and it was a precursor to the updated DLC. The power of the appropriate creator, whether they're being paid or it's organic and it's the right time, right place, it can have tremendous impact on your seconds of your game.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I also think that what's really important there is that click, that the product, the game, and the right creator together can really create that synergy that can make the IP or the game blow up. And we've seen that as well with PUBG specifically. And I think like the recent examples also with other games, like Among Us, for example, and the titles that were out there for quite some time, but then suddenly a streamer or content creator would pick them up, and then they become really popular. And that kind of connection, when it clicks just right, that's really something precious, I would say.
Yeah, I think Eva, to your point as well, just on how those connections are found, we've been seeing like an interesting trend, especially like a Q4 last year, like around classic RuneScape, and seeing how many of those creators have been able to kind of bring back a game that had been dormant for a long time, but obviously culturally still had a really great following. Like one of the really cool things I think we try to do with a lot of our data is help target those ambassadors, because we really look at like ambassador and creator programs as kind of two-pronged, with kind of an inbound funnel of more micro creators that can really grow organically for you guys and help fulfill those things, and obviously those paid creator I view as more of an outbound. And for those outbound programs, what we really like to do is obviously we have an idea of what creators are doing best for those games, but doing overlap analyses as well to understand, well, of these influencers, what else are those audiences going to watch? Are they watching other influencers that are playing different games? So you can also kind of market to those new gaming, because who would have thought maybe RuneScape has a really high overlap with PUBG viewership. So it could be a way to kind of pull from other games to bring more attention back to yours. But yeah, such a fascinating kind of, I guess for you, Ivo, how do you kind of differentiate, or are there things you prioritize for more ambassador programs versus like a paid creator program?
Definitely, yes. There is quite a bit of differences in the way how, for example, when we want to promote a certain thing that's happening with the game or in the game, there are different ways to do that. And for different activities, different types of content creators can be a good fit. So this is also something that's always a little bit tricky for us, because clearly our PUBG partners are very much connected with our core players and core community. So our core audience really does like to see partners featured, and they really cheer for them. They appreciate their content because they have been there for a long time, and they create that connection and those memorable moments. So whenever we do some bigger activation where we involved a content creator that is very much visible but not necessarily that engaged with PUBG all the time, sometimes we can get like a bit of a negative sentiment that the community doesn't always appreciate that we are basically just trying to tap into the new audience. But it's also important for us, because through these paid collaborations that we would sometimes have with content creators that can help us bring in new audience, then we can potentially also convert them into players, and that helps us grow in general. So I would say it's beneficial for everyone, but definitely something that can be a little bit tricky, and we definitely try to do both. Like, organic relationships are very important for the community aspect of things, but also from the marketing perspective, the paid influencer collaborations and creator collaborations have their own advantages as well.
Hey, Eva, I have a question for you, and I know that this is a little bit of a derail, but I'm just very curious about how do you who's entrenched with the PUBG ecosystem? For example, on our side, we have a particular creator, FaceSwag. He is the face of Warzone, right? So what is his relationship to the developer? And it's honestly, I always just wanted to ask that question. And I'd love to hear from you, like when you look at like the core creator community, like how do you extend that relationship with that particular individual? They're going to play the game regardless. So how do you enhance a relationship that, it speaks to your objectives?
Yeah, so for us, it's mostly, I would say, through the daily interactions, because one of the things that we kind of pride ourselves in, and what we always try to put a lot of emphasis on, is that our partners know us. Like, we are a small team. Basically, it's just two of us at the moment. It's me kind of in the background, more like on the strategic side of things. And then it's my colleague, Dan, who is the person that's most of the time out there, like nurturing those relationships, talking to our partners and assisting and helping them. I still do that too, to an extent whenever I can. But these daily interactions and communication with partners is something that's helping us a lot, in a sense that partners know that whenever they have any kind of feedback or comments or issues that they want to share with us, aka through us to our development team, we have like a dedicated partner Discord where we connect with partners. And through these interactions, basically, we work on the relationships with those creators and kind of try to strengthen them and build that trust. And we also try to have like in-person kind of gatherings and meetups with our core creators and partners. So this is also something we do. We every now and then also organize closed conversations, like groups, like feedback groups, let's say, where we invite specific partners to discuss directly with our developers, certain topics that are interesting for them. So that's how we do that.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
really
That's super
interesting.
helpful. I've always just
Yeah, I think there's always such an underlying theme of like making a connection just enables so much more success long term. I think so many influencer marketers I hear in the market saying like, yeah, we like to work with who works well with us because they seem vested in having an interest. They're the ones who are going to promote the most. I think from like the affiliate side, what's also really interesting is we've had a lot of conversations with more kind of peripheral brands and brands with gaming strategies about for ambassador programs that are going to be unpaid, really trying to gamify those projects as well. So they feel like there's an incentive system where, hey, if I do X amount of things, I'm going to get in-game rewards, or kind of seeing where they're at on the leaderboard as far as the most exposure driven. I think that's a really interesting kind of development that I've been hearing over the last 6 months. I guess, Eva, are you guys thinking about that at all when it comes to affiliate marketers, or?
Yeah, like to a certain extent, I think that this is like really interesting idea, and I also can think about some aspects of it that are not always that welcome by the content creators. Like I think, for example, if we look at the Trovo as a platform, I think that's a very good example, because when they were launching, and there was a lot of push for the creator conversion and making streamers go there and stream there. They had like the program that was actually based on live streaming hours. That I think in theory it looks like a great idea, but it can also lead to people just like grinding like crazy. So
Yeah.
that's not always ideal. I think that they can be advantages to it, but what we try to do with our partners, we try different approaches in the past. Like I've been with PUBG since 2019, so since then I worked on like building the program and developing, and trying to apply different strategies and seeing the results and such. We tried, for example, having like a tier system and all stuff like that. But in the end, I am a big believer in kind of equal treatment towards the partners. When it comes to like the basic perks and benefits that we provide, whenever people create content for us and they do all that great stuff, they deserve to be rewarded. So what we do, we try to provide like a same benefit to all the partners that we have in the program, like on the basic level. So for example, with each in-game update, we give all our partners in-game currency allowance. That's the same for everybody. Everybody gets the same, and then they can work with that. It helps them to promote the content. And if we want to give something special or work on some specific dedicated activities with certain partners, then we would target like a specific people based on how fit they are to what we need to do. And offer this variety of opportunities basically based on the project that we are working on. So there are different opportunities. Not everybody is always invited into everything we do, so that's also kind of clear, because we have currently over 500 partners in our program, only specifically in the West region. So that's also a bit challenging for us in a way, how much we can actually engage with them. And I know that partners sometimes would like a little bit more from us than what we can give at the moment, given the size of the team.
Sure.
But for example, launching our partner hub with collaboration with Sidekick, and actually also with Stream Hatchet through certain tools that our hub offers, we are kind of trying to streamline those processes to be able to interact with partners a little bit more and easier. So it's all kind of interconnected.
Yeah, definitely. I want to talk about this question a lot too. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was just going to say, like, my career is supply. So where
Jeff, I think you're breaking up a little bit.
our end, it's really about like spreading a comment. Now, one of your apologies.
While we try to get Jeff's connection back, I think
Can you
it's a little bit touch and go.
All right, guys,
Maybe
let me
we'll
move to a
see.
different location. Let me see if that works a little
Sounds
bit.
good. I'll ask a question in the meantime, and we can come back to your. That sounds great. So metrics and using success. I think another question I have, like, to dovetail off of this, is like, I think also understanding how metrics differ between platforms. I know TikTok has been a really, really productive platform from a live perspective as well as a VOD perspective. I think from our opinion over here, I think a lot of the live streaming generates most of the short form clips that end up going out on all those other channels, but would love to understand kind of the metrics and platforms you guys prioritize when looking at those partners and the KPIs.
Yeah, so on our side, actually, with PUBG specifically, we don't really have a lot of partners that are super active on TikTok. I would say there is definitely a number of them that have TikTok channel, because I believe that from a creator perspective, it's something that's perhaps even kind of necessary nowadays, especially if you have like your main content on, let's say, YouTube or Twitch, getting the new people to come join you and grow your channel. I think TikTok is a great tool for that can really help with bringing new audience, especially from the younger pool.
Yeah.
But because the demographics of our player base, and I would say even like the content creators, we are like between late 20s, 30s, like our audience and content creators that we closely work with are a little bit older. Of course, not all of them, but I would say mostly. And most of them actually are based on Twitch. Second most popular platform is YouTube. Then recently we have a couple of people also trying out Kick. We have people that have been trying Trovo. We have some regional platforms as well that partners do try. We had people on Facebook Live and such, but that's pretty much dead now. So I would say Twitch definitely is the main one still at the moment. But we have been seeing a lot of growth in YouTube live streaming as well, as the platform is introducing new features that make it easier and better for creators. So I'm personally quite curious how that's gonna go in the near future. So that's interesting. And also, speaking of metrics and measurements, YouTube has been quite a tough one for us because, when we are doing our partner performance tracking, which of course we do, in different ways. Like, for example, we do like a monthly reporting because that helps us to see what partners are active. And then when we have activities to offer or benefits to distribute, we always would prioritize the active partners. So that's important for us to always be aware of who those are out of the whole pool. And YouTube has been quite difficult because their API is not as much accessible to external tools, as you guys probably know yourself.
Very aware.
Yeah, so with that's been a bit of a struggle, but thankfully, at least with Twitch, we can see quite detailed breakdowns of the data that we need to see. So for us, as like the success measuring, I would say that there are two big distinctions that we make. First of all, there is this like monthly report, like kind of always on, right? That we need to know who the active people are. So that's one thing. But then also we have like a specific KPIs that we set for the activities that we run with partners or specific promotional campaigns and such. And then we always try to look at qualitative and also quantitative KPIs. So for the quantitative, obviously, that's always like for example, if we run a campaign, we are looking at the partner interest rates, just like how many partners out of those that we reached out for specific action were actually responding positively to it. Then we definitely look at the viewership results. So for that, tools like Stream Hatchet, Rainmaker, Sidekick, and our partner hub that help us with automating those processes of tracking are very useful tools that give us that overview. We also look at the platform coverage, of course, like where the partners are, what their channels are, and depending on what kind of content we want to put out there or what kind of content our partners created, we can then leverage. That's important for us to know. But the qualitative results is also something that's important for us too, like monitoring what partners say and also monitoring what community reactions to the partner content are. That helps us to understand the needs and wishes of the players and feedback that back to the internal teams. Then that's something we always look at.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. My internet was
You're clear as a bell, Jeff. All
Moved to a
good.
different room in 2024. Good internet is just as important as your creator program. One of the things that I think is interesting is just like the games industry at large has proven metrics really around live streaming, right? So what does viewership do to my game? How does it impact wish lists when you're in early stages? If you have a live services game, how does streaming metrics and how does it create a healthy ecosystem? But I think one of the things that we're starting to see more frequently on our end is the rise of clipping from live streams. And the original question was around like TikTok. And I think one of the things that I'm seeing, and I'll use the Kai Cenat Elden Ring. I didn't watch his Elden Ring stream, but I saw it all over Twitter and I saw it in React content on TikTok. And so I think that's becoming increasingly like the main canvas is on live streaming. We've got proven metrics, but now you get this secondary run of content. And we're finding that, there's often more distribution of that content than even the original live streaming program. And
yeah.
Definitely. I think, to your point, Jeff, it's like, and those of you who've been on calls with me have probably heard me say this, but influencer marketing has just changed so much in the last couple of years, right? Like, used to be just Instagram doing an Instagram post with some influencer, and now like it's how all of these things work in concert. Because to your point, when you have a 6.5 hour live stream that you can clip up into infinite videos and conversation pieces, I think to Eva's point as well, like really looking at chat information as well, and even doing some analyses for some of our partners around like audio recognition to understand when a keyword is mentioned, how is chat responding? So when we're talking about the new DLC that PUBG releases, what's the reaction to that, to understand sentiment as well? Because I think it's so fascinating just understanding, even going a level deeper into cohorts. So of the cohorts of the people who are tuning in for more than an hour and a half a week on PUBG content, are they chatting more? Are they chatting less? So again, it's all, there's so many ways to kind of slice the cake in a way. And I think it's only going to become more complicated as more of these metrics come together and these platforms kind of commingle.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also really interesting to actually, having these insights or trying to understand the connection between the metrics that we are seeing on the live streaming or content platforms and then back in the game in terms of like active users, for example.
Yeah.
Because that's also something we always try to measure, especially after, when we do like bigger events, like a live streaming events where should that be like a partner tournament or events such as Twitch rivals and such. That's really interesting for us to look into the data afterwards, because there you can clearly see what kind of activities drive the traffic and helps us with that. But specifically, going kind of back to the TikTok topic, because that's something I've been thinking a lot about. I would be really curious to actually have any kind of insight into the conversion rates there. Maybe now not necessarily talking about PUBG and, like our game and such, but just in general, because to me, TikTok content in general seems like something that's where there's like a lot of element of the randomness in it, right? That like some random clip can just blow up overnight like crazy. And the question is like how people actually interact with that content. Like, is there actual conversion, let's say, into sales, for example? And if there is the way to understand this a little bit better, if it's just like people scrolling so you can easily get million views, but then they're inactive in real life when it comes to call to action, or if it's like really actually powerful tool that can be used. I'm personally kind of like not 100%.
Jeff, I'll let you go first. But yeah, I got a few opinions after Jeff.
Yeah, I think that they've clearly cracked the code with like algorithmically sourced content. Like clearly, like I go into a black hole I have to remove it from my phone just because I'll like, where did where did a few hours of my life just go? And it's like my own personal cable channel. I view TikTok very similar to how I viewed Meta probably 5 years ago, where they had this really interesting ad platform. They had all this engagement, but I think that they're having to prove the models and then also figure out how they're able to append attribution towards their paid ads. I think that they're relatively early. Like I've always heard from partners, whether it's brand or it's games, it's like, YouTube has great conversions. It just always has as a source of e-commerce transaction. Twitch is always lagged a little bit behind, but I think that we're in the early stages where now they have all this engagement. Now they're going to figure out not only how do they algorithmically source you content, but how does that content then convert? And so I think, given their scale and given their position of just attention, I think as the models kind of get more advanced and as Stream Hatchet and Sidekick will get more data, I think that we're going to start validating some of this initial hypothesis. But Eva, I feel like you're in a very common situation where it's like, what is the impact of TikTok on my game today? And
Yeah.
I would say it's there. It's just how does this fit into these models that we built, and how does it ultimately drive customer acquisition and then lifetime value of my player base?
Yeah, and I think that's in general kind of like an open question, right? Like something that we keep exploring and like understanding better and looking into ways, not only like with TikTok, because as I said previously, for us, that's not like the major platform at this moment, because most of our creators are not there, like as their main content platform. But just in general, like even with the Twitch activities and such, making that connection and understanding, like if we have achieved certain thing in terms of viewership, like what kind of benefit does it have for the game itself? That's always something we have to keep in mind. And just one more thought, kind of maybe a little bit more philosophical, but when we were also talking about the TikTok content, I feel like that there is also a bit of a difference in a sense of how people build their communities. So now, not from the brand perspective, but more like from a content creator perspective, that creators on platforms like YouTube or Twitch, where they spend a long hours engaging with their viewers, actually, making that personal, like parasocial sometimes connections with the viewers. I feel like that's also something that helps to drive that conversion. While on TikTok, I'm not really sure if people are able to create that kind of personal connection with their favorite creator through just a short contents. Like how much can be revealed there from, like who the creator is and such.
Yeah, it was a big question I had when they really started to push the live content on TikTok. Because anytime it's ever come on my feed, it's one of the first, like it's a very quick scroll for me. And I've talked to a lot of creators just at even TwitchCon last year, and they were saying that the numbers are actually more sustained than we thought. Because my thought for the live streaming on TikTok, it was going to be a really high peak number, but fall off pretty quickly as people scroll through. But it sounds like the retention's a little bit better. And I think from a conversion perspective, from the e-commerce customers I talked to, TikTok is very successful. I think for game conversion, it's a little bit different, right? Like being on your mobile phone, like being on Twitch, a lot of people are watching from their PC already. So like making that jump from Twitch to Steam is a little bit of a shorter gap. But with TikTok being as mobile focused as it is, I'm just as curious to see if that platform can really move mountains for more console and PC based games, or where to kind of tie that attribution in from that platform. Because it's definitely new, but from the brands that we've talked to, I think more than the publishers, they've seen some really interesting conversion. But yeah, it's too early to tell. I think it's ever developing, and I think YouTube's also in an interesting spot too, especially like if for some reason TikTok in the US does actually go through and get banned, like YouTube Shorts is sitting there with a pretty compelling product.
Yes, they are ready.
They're ready to go, and it's improving too. Like I've been, Jeff, on the weeks that I've had to delete TikTok, I'll find myself on YouTube Shorts to get a little fix, but algorithm's not quite there, but it's getting close.
I think Eva brings up a very interesting point, though, as it pertains to creators, right? A view for a creator of somebody you don't really follow, but this is being algorithmically sourced. Like I think back to even like 3 or 4 years ago when I was at FaceTime. we used to always view, we have hundreds of millions of followers, like scale really mattered. I think we've changed into more of a algorithm discoverability engagement model that versus this owned audience. And I actually think that, to your point about it, like there's definitely going to be a decline in what is an impression on TikTok versus what is an impression on YouTube. I am subscribing to this person. I know everything about them. I know their community. I'm in the comments. And in TikTok and Reels, it's different. It's more casual, has a lot of views, but the attachment and to my fan and community is vastly different.
It's almost like bit and react content. Like any TikTok, they're doing comedy. It's like they're almost doing a sketch rather than actually like connecting with the community that they're trying to reach out to. But yeah, it's such an interesting differentiation.
I think on the Stream Hatchet side too, like maybe you kind of differentiate it between like live content in general versus evergreen content, because like I think that evergreen content, like because of the algorithmic way that it shows up on your feed, you could see content from 2 weeks ago. Like sometimes I see reels from 8 weeks ago, whereas like live maybe sometimes attracts like your more hardcore audience because they're going to be the ones that are showing up when that notification comes on. They're like, okay, my favorite streamer's going live. I want to see what's new, what's going on with PUBG or whatever game that they're playing. Whereas, yeah, I think like the social content that we're talking about is like more for discoverability, more for attracting new leads, new people to your game, new people to your creator, and then you can kind of nurture them down the funnel in that way. But you're going to really get your hardcore fans watching those lives and staying up to date with your creators, I think.
Yeah.
The following in concert too. I'm so curious if like we start looking at creators one day of like, oh, they're really, really successful on TikTok, so they might not have as many like very deep, overly dedicated folks that some of the YouTubers may have, and they may be great for one campaign from discovery, but as far as like deep connection that maybe PUBG wants to drive, it may be somebody who's a bit more focused. But it'll be interesting to see like not just the impressions and how they're weighted, but how like people's followings are even weighted when it comes to like prioritizing where the most success is for your brand and publisher.
Yeah, I actually would also be like really interested in seeing whether there was any case of a content creator that actually started on TikTok, became really huge there, and then like migrated to a different platform with more like long form of content. Maybe that's not gonna be even needed because TikTok might be also looking into like a longer form of content, which I think recently they actually started to encourage that little more, while YouTube started encouraging the short form. So that's also really interesting.
I think what we've seen, it's like podcasts though. I think a lot of those, I think that's where I've seen the most like jump into long form is like these TikTok creators will build a following, a reaction, and then they'll partner with another creator to do a longer podcast, and they'll have other creators on as guests. That's where I've seen the long stream, like from going from that to like a live streamer though. I think the examples are probably much fewer, in my guess.
I think the one thing to just think about it from like a creator perspective, and I obviously spend a lot of time, they're always going to prioritize the content that's going to pay them the most amount of money. And so TikTokers are all going to launch YouTube pages and pieces of content because that's where the economics are. Like you can do hundreds of millions of views in Reels and in TikTok and make next to no money. And from an economic standpoint, having owned and operated reach on Twitch, if you streamed at 10,000 plus concurrents, like you're making $100,000 a month. And so TikTok is just a discoverability tool for your long form content. And Jake, I got it also from like how content, there's a little bit of a flywheel. It's like, is TikTok, can it be a driver to my long form content? Recently launched a podcast with I mentioned before. It's called Join the Lobby. It's had a whole series of really, really big guests that have come through. On average on YouTube, it does, roughly like 80,000, 100,000 concurrents. But each one of those is doing of short form clips. And I just wonder, do the short form clips devalue the longer form content where the economics really are? Or, are we going to get to a system where we totally understand what the push and pull is? So that short term, nobody really knows.
I agree.
Yeah. So
a bigger mapping exercise for much smarter people on our data side to do this. Thankfully, we got a lot of smart people back there.
That's what the Stream Hatchet data is going to help us provide insights into how that really works.
Most definitely.
Cool. I guess if we want to move along, I don't know, we had some questions maybe on, the differences between working with content creators versus esports creators and esports events. I don't know if we want to maybe pivot to that kind of question or.
Yeah, I love your thoughts on that, Eva. I think with a lot of the different publishers that we work with, a lot of folks look at like content creators for esports as a really, really good thing. We've seen a lot of viewership successes from that. But how do you guys kind of value co-streamers versus regular creators in understanding? I know there's always kind of this conversation on, is it rented views or honest views that are going to be returning regardless, but would love your thoughts there.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting question. And actually, it would be really cool to have somebody from our dedicated esports team to speak about it a bit more, because actually, the majority of the streaming activities around PUBG esports are handled directly through our esports team. So what I can say from my point of view and from what my team does for PUBG esports or have been doing in the past, again, there is like a few things to that. So first of all, when it comes to like restreaming, we call that kind of activity watch party, right? So there is like a main live stream that's our own where the matches are happening, and then we have variety of streamers that restream that content, comment on it, watch with their communities. So specifically with our PUBG partners, for every major esports event, we normally try to organize the watch parties with them. Again, sometimes there is watch parties that are done as like paid collaborations, but we do a lot of those like on organic basis, just by offering, for example, in-game items, like the codes that creators can give out during the watch parties. We've also been working with like a physical merchandise in the past that streamers can give out during the watch party and such. And we do have like a quite solid base of people that are genuinely interested in watching the esports. So when it comes to that, I personally think that the watch parties are a great tool how to expand the viewership and audience, because if people are at home and they watch like the official live stream themselves, maybe they can gather with few friends and like watch it together. But people don't always do that in like physical setting, right? Like it's kind of, I would say, rather rare to say to 5 friends like, hey, come to my house, let's have some beers and watch the esports event. Not impossible, but I would say people don't always do that. But if your favorite streamer says like, hey, tune into my stream tomorrow at 6 p.m., we are gonna watch the matches, then it brings that sense of community again, right? People can gather together, it's online, everybody joins from the comfort of their home, and they can comment on stuff. And especially if the live stream is hosted by the person that's knowledgeable about the gameplay, I would say that it doesn't necessarily even have to be, if I use example of PUBG, let's say we have PUBG partner who does play the game all the time and understands all the mechanics and everything, and it's also into our esports. There is the value because they can provide commentary that's very knowledgeable and on point. On the other hand, also imagine you are working with a paid streamer that's not necessarily into PUBG, and they watch the event and they host a watch party as something new for them to follow, and they are just learning about how things work, what teams we have, who are the players. Then again, especially if you target right content creators, let's say I wouldn't, for example, pick a streamer that streams Minecraft to do PUBG watch party, because that makes no sense, right? But if it's like a streamer that's still within the FPS ecosystem and does have knowledge of the shooters and understand the mechanics, there is still value of having someone with that background and their audience that might potentially be interested. There also could be overlaps between the teams, like, esports teams, they play in different leagues, they cover different games. So there is this fandom, I believe, that, you know, it can grow and it can help the ecosystem, I would say. So I personally see watch parties as something that's valuable in organic way and also in a paid way for different reasons.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, one of the things it's like really what's the difference between an esports player and a content creator? There's been a major blurring of that. So during my time when I was at Loaded, Tarek around Valorant, I think it's undeniable his impact, in particular in the US, with driving viewership. I've found it many a times where he had a larger audience than the central feed. Now, when you're syndicating out and you're allowing watch parties, and I think we're seeing some loosening of those restrictions. Just if you can bring new players to you have to remember, esports, it's a competitive side, but it's also a marketing funnel for the game. And you have Tarek, who is a great ambassador, and he should be able to offer his own commentary. I think you're even seeing it in traditional sports, where you can watch, you know, the NBA finals through a different broadcast lens. And so increasingly you're seeing just more flexibility and access. And I think that's important. You look at even like the Call of Duty ecosystem with Zuma and Scum. They're co-streaming, offering their point of view. It's, you know, accessing their communities. And I think it's beneficial to the game. It's beneficial to the ecosystem. It's just, you know, a lot of the creators now want to be paid, and that's a debate within the publishers. It's just like, why would we pay them? We're giving them content. And so it's just figuring out, how does the creator benefit? How do they really want to rally behind this game that they really love and their identity is attached to it? And I think, you know, these are increasingly becoming more interesting ways that you can increase scale, especially on a global distribution with global IPs like PUBG, like Counter-Strike, and Call of Duty and the like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just leveraging, just to dovetail off that, just to leverage the, like, if we think about the most popular PUBG players are probably not the esports players. They're probably the personalities and the influencers who are playing PUBG all the time. And I think that's like a big piece of it too. Like, so much, like if you're following like one of her favorite creators, and like Scump, I think, is somebody who really transcended esports and really having a tremendous following, and is a great traditional live streamer as well, but being able to capitalize on that exposure to make it. And it's also like a personality and like an evaluation that you appreciate. Like Scump is going to look at this match differently than just a common everyday like variety creator, and you want his insight on how to approach maps and stuff like that. So I think there's so much more legitimacy. It's like watching a baseball game with a former Hall of Famer breaking down like, oh, here's why they're going to do this, and this is, and like it just makes the game more fascinating. I think especially as like older millennials, or like they come back to video games after having kids or whatever. I think there's so much new stuff to kind of understand, and there's a lot more access to understanding like the meta in a lot of ways through those lenses, rather than kind of coming in blind to a League of Legends tournament, which any normal person wouldn't know what they're looking at or how to score. So
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree with that. But also, if I can share like some struggles that we've been having specifically on this topic. For example, one of our biggest PUBG partner at the moment that's like very popular in North America, but I would also say globally, to name just one, Tiggleton, for example. I think he is like the exact great person to mention here, because he's very skilled professional PUBG player, but he's also a great content creator that has a large following and people really love to watch him. He has a lot of fun content, good clips, but also high skill gameplay. And I think it really depends on what is the audience expecting from tuning into a live stream or, going to watch some content. Sometimes people just look for a rather casual fun and that sense of community. Sometimes people really are there to learn about the game and they want to improve themselves and they want to appreciate someone who can show them how it's done. So I always feel like that there is a big difference between being a professional player with like super high skill when it comes to gameplay and being high skilled content creator. And those two don't always overlap necessarily, right? Because being on live stream and entertaining the entire community that is watching you for like 6 hours straight it's very different skill from, playing and completely ruling the battlegrounds, for example.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's something that's also good to keep in mind, that this don't always necessarily overlap. And especially with our partner program, we in past have been receiving a lot of applications from our esports players into the program, and we do have number of esports pros in our program that are also amazing content creators. So that when again this kind of synergy happens, that's great, and I think it's very valuable for us and for the community to have players like that have this ability to kind of also entertain and share their skill set this way. But there's also certain challenges that sometimes we had to reject certain applications, because the whole purpose of the program, or the way it's currently shaped, it's focusing on established content creators, right? As I mentioned earlier, for us, it's not only a marketing tool, but it's also a tool to reward and give back to the creators. So we definitely need those people that are our partners to have certain activity and create content regularly. And sadly, that's also not always possible for the players, because sometimes they have other commitments, they have to practice, they are present at events that can sometimes take weeks. Then they also like to take longer breaks and such. So I think it also depends, that sometimes it's good to have ambassador program for esports players, but maybe it needs to be something a little bit different than a regular ambassador program for creators that are not involved with the esports scene. And that's kind of the thing that also we are discussing a lot with our esports team, because there also exists a partnership through our esports team that takes care of the players and teams and offers them set of benefits that we as a partnership team focusing on content creators cannot provide. So it's also about kind of finding the balance here.
Yeah.
I'd say for me, I am a steadfast believer that if an ambassador program, whether it's paid or just a relationship, can be a huge opportunity for a brand or a developer. I feel like if it's done correctly with people like Iva, it really can be one of your most important marketing channels. And a lot of it I'm finding is, traditional content, especially on the social platforms. It's like you have a piece of content that goes out, and then there's paid ads against it. I think that's things in gaming. You don't see a lot of that in a way that I feel like can material replace some of the previous assets. My background was in programmatic and ad tech and performance media. I think if we can start to figure out how that really personal relationship between a creator with their community, and then it feeds into the tools and data and analytics of Stream Hatchet and Sidekick, I feel like there is just a massive opportunity to do things right, rooted in data, looking at performance. And I feel like it's an underutilized tactic, I think, outside of the developer world. And I think that you are increasingly going to see more and more partner managers at traditional brands as they look to bring more of this specialization in-house. I talk to Fortune 100 brands all the time, and they are outsourcing this relationship. And more often than not, they're going to the platforms to broker those deals. So having somebody like Ava really matters, because you have to have people that speak the language, who know how to communicate with creators. And if this is a relationship that's designed to withstand the test of time, you really got to bring that core relationship building in-house. And I think that's where the opportunity lies.
Yeah, I definitely agree on this one, because as I mentioned, I feel really proud when I look at the conversations we are having with our partners, because the fact that even sometimes when there are certain issues or problems, every time when a partner comes to us and he sends us, or they send us a message through Discord and they flag the problem, they come first to us to discuss it and seek our assistance. I feel like that this is exactly what it should be, rather than, for example, tweeting about it out of the blue somewhere for random people to see it that can't really help them with that. The fact that they have dedicated person that they can go to and share that, issue with and get assistance. This is really something that we always try to provide our partners with that level of access to our team, even though again we are not 100%, right? Like we have not always the ability to be there immediately and address all the inquiries if there is a lot. So that's why we are trying to utilize the tools that can help us with that. But like as a lead of the partner part, I would definitely not like to be in the situation where all these relationships are fully outsourced. I really do like the environment that we created where our partners know who we are. They know our name, not only nickname, but the real name. They can talk to us. They know where to find us. And I think that this is very valuable. And for me, like one of the proofs of that is that every time when I look at our partner pool, we have a lot of partners that have been with us since the early days, like since when I started, we had like a pool of OG partners, and very many of those people are still with us. They still create content, they talk to us, and I think that that's very, very valuable, and we really appreciate those creators a lot.
Yeah, Eva, it's so interesting too, because like even just in this conversation, I think it's what you mentioned earlier in the call about how sometimes you'll have smaller breakout groups of these creators, even like that smaller room engagement strategy to really make them feel part of the organization is such a huge piece. And I think even to your point, like maybe esports pros do have a different path in the future, because I think like game publishers who are thinking about those pros who were able to give so much to the brand over time, giving them a pathway to help become ambassadors and launch their platforms from those former esports careers, I think is a really fascinating piece. It just shows how many more like versions and ways you can kind of cut ambassador programs as it continues to expand. Because I think it's still early days, right? Like there's so much specificity I think that can make these more powerful.
Yeah, indeed, and a lot of things are also changing quite quickly and a lot.
Yeah.
So
Be nice if they slowed down.
Honestly, I feel like witnessed like the incremental shifts in the business, and like the business that I got into 6 years ago is fundamentally different by platform, creator personalities, and the tools available. And I think we have seen, so it's either like, and I hate to use that line, it's like adapt or die, but to do creators, it's like you got to be on the pulse of what is happening that month. And I just have really appreciated hearing from you, like, how much you value these relationships and how important it is. And I think just more and more companies, whether it's on the developer side or will prioritize, and then I think on the traditional brand, I feel like that's the start of, customer relationship management moving forward.
yeah, absolutely. I think that there is definitely a lot of value in that kind of approach. But, I also understand when the brands sometimes decide to go the other way, like, yay, automation and all that, because, again, there are benefits to that. And I would maybe even say that it depends on the industry, because our approach is like specific to the industry, I would say, right? Because with gaming, it's a bit of a different customer base, I believe, because people are very passionate and very dedicated to the game. Like a lot of people that follow our creators and are our players, they are really invested and it means a lot to them. So within that kind of environment, I think it's maybe even more important to, focus on those relationships.
Definitely.
Agreed.
Amanda, I know we're coming up on time, so I don't want to dive into anything too short. Take us down another 30 minutes.
Yeah, I know. Well, I didn't see any questions in the feed, but if anyone has any questions, I will put up our names here for a minute. You can add us on LinkedIn, shoot us a DM, find us at Stream Hatchet, Krafton, Gamesquare. We'll answer it for you. But yeah, just wanted to thank you guys so much for joining us today, Jeff, Eva, Jake. It was a great conversation. Yeah, we could definitely go for probably another hour at least. So yeah, really appreciate you guys taking the time. Yeah, and like I said, you can find us here on LinkedIn or at streamhatchet.com. We have our ebook that is kind of on this topic that we made with our sister company Sidekick under the Gamesquare logo. So has like 20 pages, I think, of a lot of this stuff. So feel free to check it out. We'll also send a recording of this to everyone who wasn't able to make it. But otherwise, yeah, appreciate it. And thank you guys for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Hatchet.
Bye.
Bye, guys.